So welcome to our weekly leadership lounge or roundtable talking about humanizing transformation. And this week we are talking about something which is really exciting because I personally love the world of quantum. And today what I want to do is I want to introduce us to the idea of quantum leadership and transformation. So that's what today's agenda is all about. And as all of you that come to our leadership roundtables will be aware of and familiar with is I love starting with a quote. And I think what's really important here, which is a quote from InsideScience.org, is just understanding that, you know, when it says the cusp of the second quantum revolution, it gives us this sense of it's not just at the start, it's not at the beginning or the birth of, it's actually something that has been happening in the background for quite some time. It's just the inevitability now of how that brings, how that will come into our world of work and business and society is becoming an inevitability. So if ever there was a time for us to understand quantum leadership and quantum transformation, of course, in my opinion, it is now. And the reason why I think that video is so incredibly important for our conversation today in today's weekly roundtable is that, you know, so many nuances came out of that for me. I don't know what words might have come out of it for you, and please just, you know, pop them into chat if you will. But, you know, there's things like incredible processing capability, so the ability to solve incredible complex problems, speed, our ability to do things so much faster. Some of the numbers that were shown there were phenomenal. And also, you know, when they were talking about the stuff that is required for the building and the maintenance and the usage and harnessing of quantum technology and quantum computers, you know, shows us that there are skills and jobs that we probably haven't even thought of yet. So again, you know, the displacement of the workforce might actually be an opportunity for new skills and new roles, as opposed to something to be scared about. So there's so much in just 4 minutes of that video. However, what I want to do is I want to start really bringing the story for today's conversation to, you know, more purely into the realms of today and who we are as a leader and the projects and programs of transformation that we all work on. So there are three elements around the quantum theory, around quantum mechanics and physics, and some of the things that we've just seen there. You know, three of the principles that I think are really important, that are directly applicable to our world of quantum leadership and quantum transformation. The first thing is subatomic. And we saw that when we saw the video describing the idea of traditional computing being about a 0 and a 1, a binary, it's either yes or a no, versus you know, that element. So I'll talk about that in a moment. But the subatomic piece is where you see that a quantum unit is called a quark, and it's subatomic. And it's tiny, 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 and there are many of them. So subatomic is really important. So incredibly small, and yet what that does is it outputs incredible power. So what we've got here is we've got a story of quantum micro subatomic shifts in order, units, in order for us to create huge changes. So very, very small change, very, very small application in design in order for us to achieve great, amazing things. So that's really important, that idea of subatomic to leadership and transformation. The other area that I think is really important to leadership and transformation is this sense of entanglement. And if you don't know about entanglement, really it's you know, a very, very oversimplified way of thinking about it is about connection, is about the idea of what I do here has an effect potentially on something that is unobservable to me, that could be many, many, many years travel and distance away, and it has an effect on that. And there are loads of experiments. If you go into the internet and a web browser and have a look at experiments around entanglement, you will see this sense of we are all connected. So it's a ripple effect. So what I do here has an effect not just on what is observable to me, but also what is not observable. There's a lot more to that, but that's just a simple thing. So the connectivity, the implications and impact of who we are and what we do and how we think and how we behave. And then thirdly, that I mentioned earlier on as well, is non-binary. So that sense of we are no longer really designing projects and programs. We are no longer thinking about who we are in terms of the very single thing that we do, that it's right or wrong, the problems or the solutions, the single journey pathway to success is no longer serving us in the world, the modern world that we live in, because we're living in a world that is defined as complexity. So non-binary, more than one right answer. So there we go. So if we apply that to the world of leadership, to the world of projects and programs and transformation, what we start to see is we start to see things that we can be thinking about in our vision, our strategy, our plans, our designs and delivery. How small can you go? When we think that we're going small, can we go smaller? So really taking things down to first principles thinking and starting to think about what are the fundamentals of where we are now in order for us to create forward. That's really important, and small tiny shifts. And certainly when I'm working with leaders, a lot of the time we are so time poor. We're dealing with so many things now. This concept of portfolio is filtering through our entire workforce system, that we're doing many things instead of one thing. The key for us is to find the little gaps and to develop and to explore, to have spaces for stop, reflection, well-being, etc. in those gaps, so that we can start there and build them out. And also the second one, in terms of entanglement, what we do now does affect the future. What we do now does affect people around us, even if we don't necessarily see them in the conversation that we're having. This conversation that I'm having today with you might be shared with someone else, might take a thought in your brain into a conversation next week, next month, in a few months' time. It might seed you to go down a different path just because of something that I've said today. What we do now affects the future and also affects other people. Thinking about that in our leadership and our transformation. And of course, number 3, when I was talking about the non-binary, that there is different paths to success. There's absolutely more than one right answer. And that's really important too. When we bring that into our work, when we bring that into the concept of modern leadership, quantum leadership, the concept of quantum transformation, then really what we've got here is 3 techniques. We've got 3 practices that we can take away immediately today and practice in our leadership, practice in some of our design and delivery of transformation projects and programs. Minimum viable shifts. I always say to customers, if it's too hard, it's not small enough. If it's too hard, that's not a no. If it's too hard, it's just not small enough. So go smaller, and go small until such a time as you can find a way through. Minimum viable shifts.